Welcome to the SIMSWeb Host Technical Video. My name is Ken Utley, President of SIMS, and the purpose of this video is to assist in the understanding of the SIMSWeb host server, identifying its purpose, and demonstrating its technical capabilities and shortcuts. The SIMSWeb hosting server is a Dell PowerEdge server using 2 network cards and running on the IBM OS/2 operating system. Dual network cards are used to screen out unwanted guests and software hackers by allowing one network card to use the TCP/IP protocol and the other the necessary network protocol, typically IPX for Novell. While OS/2 may seem somewhat off the mainstream of today's operating systems, frankly, nothing could be farther from the truth. Today's more popular operating systems of Windows 2000 and Windows XP are built around the kernel technology done for the OS/2 operating system. Next time you start up your XP, look for the OS/2 identifier at the beginning of the operating system load. Why OS/2? For one thing, the threading engineered for the OS/2 was a vast improvement over the DOS-based Windows applications of Windows 95, Windows 98, and Millennium. Just as those of us using today's NT operating systems know, the basic operation of the OS/2 kernel was much smoother, more reliable, and faster. System requirements for this program are a stable computer hardware environment, using the OS/2 operating system. Minimum memory requirements are 128 megabytes of RAM, while other factors such as processor type and speed and hard disk technology will create a smoother and sometimes even faster operation. Let's look at some of the basics of the OS/2 operating system. The SIMSWeb server, although it has one physical drive, may be divided into 2 logical drives, Drive C and Drive D. The Drive C is used for the OS/2 operating system, network protocols, and so forth, while Drive D is actually set aside for the SIMSWeb operating system and its components. The 2 main components that sit on top of the OS/2 operating system are the IBM GoServe, or the web actual controller itself, and the SIMSWeb daemon. The GoServe actually controls the input and output through TCP/IP and the web actual delivery to the outside world. The SIMSWeb daemon, on the other hand, has got a major task. I've divided this screen into 5 sections here so we can start to try to analyze what the daemon actually does. First of all, on the left-hand side are the status sides of the daemon. Here we can see the overall status is the daemon is working, then sleeping, working, then sleeping. It spends most of its time sleeping and thereby giving up much more time to the GoServe, which is going to have to deal with multiple requests simultaneously. There is also the SIMS2 section of the daemon, which actually monitors the SIMS2 database, looks for changes, and then when changes are noted, updates the names.btr file located in the SIMS2 directory so that faster accessing can be done. The final part of the daemon is the database daemon. When we make changes at the outside world wanting to write new changes into the SIMS2 Central Station database, the database daemon is going to take those changes that come in from the browser and then insert them into the Central Station database depending on the timing of the staging. The staging can be set up to wait for someone to actually approve something or to just automatically put those in every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever the setting happens to be. Now the history part of the daemon screen is divided into 2 sections. First of all, there's the login history, which lets us know who's coming in and who's going out of our SIMSWeb server. You can see a few examples here that there's been logged on as management example. That particular person has done a search followed by a page 1, looking at page 1 for editing of account number 1. then page 2, and so forth. And that can continue on to do more and more things. If we watch that log history, we're going to see the types of things that are being done. Now, the bottom section is actually the database history. Here we're going to start noticing that changes are being made, statuses are being updated. Here's where we see that accounts have been brought in from the browsers and then inserted back into the Central Station database. Now, these two entries here create two logs that are located within the SIMS2 directory. I'm going to come up here for a moment and I'm going to open up an OS2 system prompt for the full screen. I think we mentioned before that we have two drives, drive C and drive D. Well, as having the SIMSWeb programs on drive D, I've created a Sims demo directory there. If I go into the Sims demo directory, I'm going to see those files that are typically associated with a Sims Central Station. You'll notice there's no history, but all of the database files are there. There's going to be a couple of other directories under here that are associated with the SIMSWeb. One is the webs log and one is the web update. The one we're going to be concerned about at the moment is the webs log. Let's go into him. And here we're going to find a couple of logs. Every month the log will be broken down. So SW stands for SIMSWeb. 2004 is the current year, and the next two digits is the month. So SW 2004-01 is for January of 2004. SW 2004-02 will be for February, and so forth. If you want to review or look at any of these logs, this is fine, but I would recommend that you copy them to a temporary directory and look at them with any type of editor. The standard OS2 editor is tedit. Let's just do a little bit of this right now, and we'll just make a directory. I'm going to copy the log into my temp directory. I'll go into there and I'll do tedit SW200401 log. Here I can start looking at this log. This is a non-document type file. It's a flat file. So if you were to copy it over, you can look at it with all kinds of programs that are provided. This is the tedit is the OS2 version of edit. It's a basic type editor, but it does let you look through there and we can page down through and so forth like that. So here you're going to see exactly what would have appeared on the log history, and you can actually go back and look through. This is important when people start talking about they've had problems trying to access in, etc., etc. This is where you find out if they tried to log in and so forth. F3 will get you out of the tedit and get you back to a DOS prompt. Now, the other one was the SIMSWeb daemon log. I'm just going to type this one out so I don't have to go anywhere else with it. And you can see this reflects the bottom one. It tells you when the daemon was started and stopped, what changes were noted, what the slots were, etc., etc. This is a little bit wider than my screen here, but I think you get a good feel for the two logs. These are two very important logs, and they're the basis for you helping and assisting your customers. I'm going to click Exit now and get back up to the desktop. Now, while I'm at the desktop, let's come along and take a quick look at some other things. This is where you can go start applications, find applications, and so forth like that. I think pretty much is the standard. The command prompts can be accessed through here, and so forth. If you want to go and you want to switch to another application, here's where you select another one to be in the actual foreground part of the task. You can initiate an OS2 lockup so that it requires a password if you want for somebody to come back in and do something. Find the objects, or this would be very similar to the Windows searching for objects. This is an important button here. Here's where you initiate the OS2 shutdown. A lot of people have trouble finding this. This is the shutdown sequence. This is the same as going to the, in NT or Windows 98, going to the start and the shutdown sequence. You must go here. If you do a power off, you run the risk of losing data that was up in cache. Sometimes that can be a minimal problem. Sometimes it can be a maximum type problem. So we suggest if you want to shut down and restart for some sort of reason, the first thing that you probably should do is to close down the Go serves, close down the daemons, then go up here and start initiating your shutdown. There is also a system activity monitor that's built in at the top of the OS2 bar, and this shows how much processor CPU time is being utilized. Typically it's going to run fairly light. If you start seeing it run towards at the top where it's constantly pushing the CPU all the time, we may have to do some sort of an upgrade on your hardware. An upgrade on your hardware is not necessarily a bad thing. That doesn't mean you need to repurchase the SIMSWeb. It just simply means you need to get a new computer. The SIMSWeb software will move to the next one, and as far as we know will continue to do so for some period of time. Now, there are other ones here to find the drives in the system, system setups, printers. Here's the shortcut for the command prompts instead of going through the tree that was over on the other side. This is the helps for OS2. If you need to go to the Assistance Center, you can get a lot of extra information. The shredder word is the same for the recycle bin inside of Windows NT and 98 and so forth like that. Now, we can see from our Go serve setup here that he's only had 56 transactions. There's been 91 errors. Errors are very, very typical when you're talking about TCP/IP. It is a very error-prone type protocol, but it also is a variable length. It's got a lot of positive things for it. But running through the internet, you're always going to see errors. We can see here we've had 243 kilobytes sent out, and this of course is today's date and time of the last idle and so forth like that. Now I would like to take just a second and bring your attention to an F1 help key while you're in the daemon. This daemon can do several very magical things that are very nice and can be helpful for you. First of all, you can see an Alt-E. If you're ever concerned that your btree file is not synchronized with your namesdat, it could be that you had to rebuild it. It could be that we've had to rebuild it. We may suggest that you resynchronize it. That's done by an Alt-E. Let's just watch that and do that just for 1 second here. Alt-E. We confirm, F10. And now you can see it starts updating. What it'll do is just, it'll clear out the names BTR file, goes to the namesdat, picks up all the accounts out of there, and then updates its own file. There's another good one here. The Alt-P, sort the SIMS2 passcard file. These are much faster than the SIMS2 can do that. They're almost full Windows speed. So a lot of these times they can be very, very helpful. Let's just do the Alt-P for right now. Alt-P. Here you can see we're starting to run through the passcards, pick up all the passcards. Bingo, done. Very, very quick. Now, obviously, I'm working on 50 accounts now, so it's going to be take a lot longer for a larger database. But I think what we're trying to demonstrate here is the fact that we can move through some database pretty fast here. Okay. There are some others that are probably worth a quick noting about. There is another one, sort the SIMS2 database sort files. That's an Alt-S. That's another nice one. This is the one that handles your names, your number lists, your address sorting, your all OK words, and so forth. These are very quick. Also, you can see that those have already been completed. Probably 10 times faster than the SIMS2 for DOS would do, but probably not quite as fast as this new SIMS for Windows. let's look here. There's a couple of other things. If you do an Alt-X, you're going to exit out of the daemon and shut it down. That's the way to do it properly. Alt-Z, put daemons to sleep. That means it puts the daemon to sleep, so it won't go out and check for database changes and status. It just sits there and idles. There is Alt-R, resynchronize the memory image of the names BTR. The daemon here keeps a picture of the names BTR file up in memory. This will just simply cause it to reread it and rebuild up the memory. There is a Alt-Q, which is a quick restart, shutdown, and then restart of the daemon. When we're dealing with the outside world and all the problems that are associated with the internet, and because this is a 7-day, 24-hour operation, there could be a time where we would ask, because of some unknown thing, that we would want you to restart the daemon. All right, and this is where you could do it at Alt-Q. Okay, this is excellent here. We're going to come out of there now and move on. Okay, let's take a minute now and open up a prompt. We'll do an OS2 full screen here. We'll go to the D drive. I'm going to go into the SIMSWeb. I'm going to go into the Go Serve. You know, remember, that's our actual web server, if you want to think about it that way. It's the guy that deals with the TCP/IP. There is a file in here that is certainly worth taking a moment and introducing it to you. This is the configuration for the SIMSWeb file. This is a very important file. It identifies where the home directories are, where the SIMS2 database is located. It controls how deep you want the logs when they're saved to go into. It's kind of a debugging place for settings and so forth. We're in our TEdit editor right now. As you can see here, our SW paths here are set to d:\/simsdemo. I think we talked about that before. We also see our traffic display, because we can have a different path for our traffic display. A lot of customers like to put it below the directory of the SIMS2 because they may have 300 or 400 dealers and it moves several files out of the SIMS2 directory. There is the international date form, which controls which way that it's set. We also have the SW logs file. This tells where the logs are going to be kept. In this case, as we described earlier, they're kept in the SIMS2 directory, in our case SIMSDemo, web logs, etc. Now the next switch is a very important switch because here we can control the amount of information that is kept regarding the logs coming in and out. You can see in our case here, we've set this to include the browser type, the IP address, the usernames, etc. We're going into the highest level here. If our customer tells us he's having some sort of a problem getting in and out of the SIMSWeb, we're going to have a lot of information. Number one, we have to make sure he's coming in from the right IP address if we have that kind of security turned on. We also have to make sure that we know what kind of browser type. I think in the remote section of the video for the SIMSWeb, we identified SIMSWeb is designed for Internet Explorer 5.5 and greater. If you get involved in older Netscapes and even some of the newer Netscapes, older browsers than 5.5, you cannot expect the kind of operation that you're going to get with the Internet Explorer 5.5 and above. There may be errors involved there. It may not be able to display some of the pick lists that we have within the database editing and so forth. So we're going to need to keep that right there. And by setting that to level number 4, we're going to get all that information. We have other things. The SIMSWeb display is SIMSWeb. Okay. The email address. This shows where users are allowed to send email, so they can send them only to that particular place there. The group access, do we want group access turned on? Do we want that restriction done there? Most all the time. These are fairly standard settings, and I would tend to think that most all the time they won't require very much changing. There are others in here. force the IP mask. I think a lot of these are self-explanatory. The SIMSWeb staged updates cause the SIMSWeb to write the updated files to the pending directory instead of writing them directly to the database. And there's different levels or the ways that you want that handled. These are all switches that are set up when your SIMSWeb is put together before shipping. But we do want to bring your attention to these should you ever have to deal with one of these with a SIMS personnel online. The staged updates is set to no right now, so that means it's pushed right into the database. We have no client access turned on here. The auto sort can be set here if you want it. Notice this. There are several of the SIMSWebs that have the auto sort turned on. And this is kind of explanatory here on how you want that handled. Same with the auto PC sort. The mailer, if you have anything involved in web mails and so forth like that. Most of the mail has been removed out of the SIMSWeb, although initially there was a couple of mail type products that were involved. We found now that once the traffic starts getting fairly heavy, we want to dedicate this machine strictly for the access in from the outside world and not having to deal with mails that unfortunately too many times we'll have people sending a megabyte mails and 5 megabyte mails, and we've seen it so many times. So we want to keep that kind of thing off of our web server. Okay, there are other situations here where you can check through all these. That's the end pretty much there. This is a good file to take a look at. F3 to quit. F3 to quit. F2 is to save any changes you said made. So let's just say F3. If you do it that way, you won't have made any changes in it. You're always going to be safe. But if it's something that you wanted to take a look at, it's not a bad idea. Okay, let's get back to our desktop. Let's take just a little bit of time now and look at some of the options under the GoServe. I'd like to just open up the options right now. And I'm going to show you something here, and the average response here is 4.09 seconds. I want you to know that that's way out of kilter. The reason that's way out of kilter is we're doing this whole setup here on a virtual PC, so I can bring these screens to you live and so forth like that. Yours should be much less than that. So you can actually watch at your response times if you want to go take a look at it. That's very easily done. You'll get you have all kinds of different things you can go take a look at here, where your directories are and so forth. But the most important one that I thought right there was just the response time. Now, in addition, there are other things up here, the kilobytes, and the error sets, so forth like that. If you come along here to the actions, you can reset all counts, reset the error counts. Okay, now my error counts went away, obviously. You can reset the peak indicators, reset the response times, and so forth like that. If you wanted to know if you're having a problem right now, see, it might make a lot of sense for you to go there and reset what your counters are showing you, so while you're monitoring what's going on, you'll get a good feel. What causes slowness in a SIMSWeb server? Okay, names lookup is probably the number one thing. Don't forget, whenever somebody comes to your server, they've got to look up the name of your server. You're going to have to go look up several things on the outside world too. So your DNS server has got to be good. If there's a big delay in there, that's going to slow your whole process down dramatically. So if you come here and you look at the options and you start seeing response times are way out of kilter, chances are it's your DNS. All right, it's a good place to go looking. Okay? All right, I thought that was a very valuable piece of information there. We've talked about our SIMSWeb daemon. We've covered a lot of territory right now. And now I just want to come by and we're going to try something. And we're live, obviously, on the database and so forth like that. But I want to show you the proper way to shut down one of these applications. First of all, an Alt-X will shut down the daemon. That's the proper shutdown. The go serve is a double click, shuts him down. I've shut down the only two applications I really have to deal with right now. So at this point in time, I could click there. Are you sure you want to shut the system down? I'm going to say yes right now, and hopefully we're going to go right to there. I'm going to press Control-Alt-Delete, and if I can do this Control-Alt-Delete properly, I'll just get to bring it right back up. Let's just keep trying. Okay, I'm going to come down here, and hopefully this will do just what we want. Exactly. And now we've just restarted our SIMSWeb. We've shut it down correctly. We got down to the place where it said Control-Alt-Delete. I performed the Control-Alt-Delete virtually in this case, and now it's going to start bringing the whole thing right back up. I'd like to stay with this long enough for us just to get right back up. During the time we're going to come back up, I'm going to get a quick error for my Novell client that's not connected up. It's a fairly small error, and then we'll just click OK on that and go by. This restarting process may take us another 90 seconds probably, but I think it's reasonably worthwhile because I also want to bring you in on how to actually start up the whole thing. I'm going to pause your window just for a moment now. Okay, we're moving on up. We're loading up our clients and drivers and so forth like that. Okay, we're getting back up now. Our system is back up. First thing we would do is open up the SIMSWeb folder. We want to start the SIMSWeb itself, which is effectively the Go serve. Then we can start up our daemon. Now our daemon is a little bit different. He is not actually going to take off until I actually make a request in from him. Let me just get a request underway. Bingo. Started him, and he started coming up. He reloaded his logs, and he's taken off right where he was. Okay. I will take 1 second and go through that process we showed you earlier about the restart. Quick restart, Alt-Q. It'll shut down this daemon. Restart it again. Gives everything a chance to flush out. Bingo. We're back in business. That's excellent. All right. I'd like to take this time to thank you for your attention during this video. I know they're not always easy to watch. This one, I've tried to give you some of the technical understanding, ways that are important to do, and things to look out for. And I'd like to take this moment and thank you. This is Ken Utley signing off.